Hello 318. I'm going to talk really briefly through the data analysis practice project to help you get an idea of where to focus your time and your energy so that this is very doable. Okay, the assignment starts with I've assigned an article that I want you to read. So I want to start off with there is a shockingly limited number of research studies being done on the work of content creation. We all have a tendency, we have all of this information about doom scrolling. We have all this information about how social media is bad for you, but we don't actually have metrics that allow that to be easily compared to understand what is good versus bad, to understand what our brains did before. So this is a very, very complicated space. So to make this entire class easier, obviously I've written the textbook and then I'm assigning the article that I want you to read. So the majority of this class is actually focused on primary research. You will be collecting data and then you will be analyzing that data and you'll be applying secondary sources that I've assigned. So you won't do any library research for this class. You're going to do all your primary research in social media. You are doing the primary research, okay? So as you're reading through the article that you are going to annotate a few notes. Don't focus on their extensive math and their extensive graphs. You do not need to recreate that level of statistical analysis. Look at the basics. What claims are they making? Okay, so let me back up one second. When you really look through the article and when you focus on the notes that you're creating for this class, focus on the categories that they created. Okay, so the article, Capriotti et al., because it's multiple authors, they look at the social media posts that are used by, and they look at so many universities, I mean hundreds of universities across the world, and they come up with categories. They say, okay, most social media posts fall into these distinct categories. Here are the similarities and differences across the categories, and then here's how these categories not only are used in the social media posts, but align with and further the public mission of public universities across the world. Okay, that cultural connection is key to this assignment. You should use the categories that Capriotti et al. Use in their article in your data chart. You should pay really close attention to how they're defining those categories so that you can make minor modifications to them so they align with the account that you're going to follow. You're then going to, because I give you the research question for this module, you're going to do a real basic collect data, very simple statistical analysis. Where are we seeing high performance and where are we not? And then what do we think that means? And a huge thing that you need to do here, you're going to have to do it in this module and in the next module. You need to set aside your assumptions about social media. Going viral is not a sustainable model if a content creator is setting out to do this for a living, or because in this module we're focusing on universities, it's not sustainable for a university. They can't go viral every single time they post, and if their posts are going viral and then getting 5 likes, that difference is a massive problem because that means that they're not reaching the audience that they think they're reaching. And in this case, because we're following a university and we're reading an article about a university, we're really taking out the marketing and the branding side that we would see in a business field, and we're looking at what public good for this community. And this is where discourse community is so important. What public good, what cultural good is this content doing for this community that they choose to then engage with that post? So if I see a post on the English page, or if I share a post, which I do on the English page, what public good am I doing? What public am I attempting to reach, or what publics? Because most of these universities are reaching multiple publics, okay? So if we go back to the Capriotti article, the categories are really helpful. Then the conclusions they draw and how they draw conclusions across multiple audiences, because there are always, for all universities, multiple audiences. Yes, there are obviously right now, today, current students and prospective students, but there's also faculty and staff and former students from 5 years ago versus former students from 15 years ago, which are honestly different publics because they're at different points in their life. There are former students, so alum who now have children that are almost at the age to go to university. That's an entirely different public. Millersville specifically then sits in the borough of Millersville, which is a borough of Lancaster County, which means the entire county is the public in a whole host of different ways for a whole host of different purposes. And some posts are targeting those publics to share cultural and community information, and some posts aren't. And we're really looking to see, okay, so what are the nuances there? What categories are we using? How are those categories performing? And then what conclusions can we draw from that? Okay, so use the Capriati article to help you understand categories and audiences, and taking all of the web writing rhetorical situation key concepts that we focused on in the prior module and applying them directly to data. I have given you the article, I've given you the research question, you just have to form your hypothesis. I want to emphasize, this video is getting long, I'm so sorry. Your hypothesis does not need to be right. Most of you are going to be wrong. I'm wrong 3/4 of the time when I write a hypothesis to do this particular kind of work. So are bench scientists in biology, and so are bench chemists in chemistry. Science and the approach to all of this is all about figuring out what is correct and what is incorrect. You are not being graded on whether your hypothesis is correct or not. Do not change your hypothesis unless it is not testable, and you'll get feedback from me on that. But don't change it to make it right because you think you're going to do better on this project. Not the goal, not the goal at all. Really check those assumptions and then see what you think is going to happen and then test it. That is the point of this. Can you read an article and develop categories to answer a research question? Can you then collect the data and can you analyze the data? That is the focus of this project this week. If you have questions about it, send me a note on Tumblr, send me an email, or stop by office hours. I'll see you online.